Good evening, Abhinav. Thanks for taking the time out for this interview.
Good evening, Aprajita. Thank you very much for joining us today.
I'd like to start off by congratulating you on the resounding success of MPA-GD last year. One of the key features of or objectives of Usanas dialogue seem to revolve around unraveling the philosophy, foundations, and strategies behind Indian narratives that inform models of statecraft. Usanas has a keen interest in exploring indigenous frameworks that have shaped Indian foreign policy for years. And there is a collective desire to research, discuss, and project these ideas to the global academic and diplomatic community. Was this how you envisioned the trajectory of Usanas?
First of all, thank you very much, Aprajita, and also the Astrid for joining us as knowledge partner this year. You asked a very interesting question. Well, let me say that, this ancient Indian text and the wisdom on international relations, foreign policy, and international security, hidden in those texts, have always defined and shaped Indian foreign policy. But so far, it has happened at a very subtle level, as if something happening at a subconscious level in the Indian strategic thinking. And I can give you examples for that, because even during the Cold War time, the government of India preferred not to take sides. We chose non-alignment. We came out with the doctrine of punch. So all these little things, they were always rooted in the ancient Indian text and the ancient Indian thought process on statecraft and diplomacy. Today, when the world is caught in turmoil and conflict all over the world, you see what's happening in West Asia, what's happening in South Caucasus, and the conflict in Europe. And we see that all these, escalations, all these little conflicts, and I would say these aggressions, something bigger, something which is, indicating a change in the world order. And we need to navigate these times. Now, India has a different stature. It's a major economic power, a major geopolitical actor. And if it has to navigate through these challenges, it cannot do through the borrowed wisdom from the Western IR theoretical frameworks. So far, most of our diplomatic community and the academics, they were trained in the Western theories, and they could not pay attention to these ancient Indian texts and doctrines. But now the time has come when we need to explore them, when we need to study them, and also to study them to make sense of what's happening around us. And also to tell the world community that, well, there is a different thought process on international relations and strategic issues, which can enable us, which can help us solve the global problems concerning geopolitics. So that's our focus at Usanas Foundation.
We'll come to the themes and the thoughts a little bit later in the interview. The Ministry of External Affairs co-hosted the dialogue last year and will be supporting the initiative in March this year as well. This is surely a major win for your foundation.
Yeah, I'm very lucky and very thankful to God, for this, I would say, this great recognition and respect which the Ministry of External Affairs has given to us. We are a small organization. We started functioning almost 3 years back, and we still have a very small team, and it's a youth-led organization. And we have been able to make a mark and establish our credibility among various sections of the society and also the international relations community, not only in India, but also in the other parts of the world. And definitely it's a great achievement for us that in this short span of time, the Ministry of External Affairs has agreed to partner with us for Maharana Pratap dialogue. And they partnered with us last year, which was indeed a great success. They are with us this year also, and we are hopeful to make this event a great success, and we are thankful to them.
You had fascinating sessions on the evolution of India's foreign policy, India's information challenges, the continued war on terror. There was also a session on India's drone technology, and obviously the Quad as well, last year, all within the backdrop of India's G20 presidency last year. This year's theme is interesting, with a focus on how India aims to navigate through geopolitical uncertainties, turmoil, and turbulence, and yet maintain its stance as a Vishwamitra, also known as a global friend. So there's a lot of things to cover during this interview, but let's start from the beginning. Why is the dialogue known as Maharana Pratap Annual Geopolitical Dialogue. What is the significance of this name?
Well, once again, I'll go back to the original philosophy and foundation of Usanas Foundation. That's basically to decolonize the Indian international relations theoretical structures and studies. And I feel that we need to find our own heroes and own legends who created and who contributed greatly to the world of international relations, foreign policy, and diplomatic thinking, the statecraft. Maharana Pratap is one of those heroes who has left a great legacy which can be helpful even in solving the problems today. Maharana Pratap fought against the might of the Mughal emperor who wanted to conquer his empire, who harmed and who threatened his sovereignty. And Maharana Pratap fought valiantly against it. When the other states of India were compromising, they succumbed to the charms and other kinds of pressures which Mughal Empire was exerting upon them. Maharana Pratap waged a great war against him. He chose the life of sacrifice. What for? To protect and guard his sovereignty. Sovereignty is such an important issue in today's world, and we can see that the bigger nations are always threatening the sovereignty of smaller nations. You can see what's happening in South China Sea. There are revisionist states trying to do cartographic revisions, threatening the sovereignty of smaller states. So the idea of sovereignty is still very important. And sovereignty is hampered, it's hindered, it's endangered, not just by the nation states, but by the non-state actors, but by the big economic giants and conglomerates. So certainly Maharana Pratap's entire life shows us how to maintain and how to guard our sovereignty. Besides that, he made great contributions in the field of warfare, in the field of intelligence, and in the field of diplomacy. So I think all these things which are the part of his life and his legacy, they can be very helpful to us. And I think our armed forces, our experts in foreign policy and security issues should study that, because they can be very helpful in addressing the issues pertaining to security and foreign policy in today's world.
Coming to the venue, Udaipur in Rajasthan is an interesting choice for conferences on national security, because popular notion is that Udaipur is usually known for destination weddings and exotic cultural events. So it's an unusual departure from the national capital of Delhi that usually hosts conferences of national importance, such as national security. So any particular reason why Udaipur has been selected as the venue, besides its obvious connection to Maharana Pratap thing?
Well, first and foremost, very primary reason, we are based in Udaipur. But, getting to a much more deeper level, that's it, because our primary philosophy, a fundamental idea behind Usanas Foundation is to take the discourse on international relations and international security beyond the national capital to the smaller cities of India. And I must say that, that there are many cities in India which have great history in the field of diplomacy, war and trade. Vijayanagar, like Prayag, Allahabad, like Magad, Patliputra. Udaipur is one of those cities. Udaipur has produced greatest warriors and statesmen like Bappa Rawal, Rana Sanga, and Maharana Pratap. Bappa Rawal is the man who chased Ghazni's invading army to the streets of Iran. While coming back, he established several military outposts. And Rawalpindi in Pakistan happens to be one of the outposts which was established by Bappa Rawal. And we must understand that, India's most glorious times were not when the Delhi was its capital. India's most glorious history, when India was regarded and respected as a global economic and military power, was happening only when there were cities, beyond Delhi, outside Delhi, which functioned as its capital. For example, during the Mauryan times, Patliputra was India's capital. During the Gupta era, Prayagraj was India's capital.
Right.
During Vikramaditya, who is regarded as one of the most glorious ruler of India, Ujjaini was the capital. So I think we should try to take this discourse beyond the national capital, and Udaipur is certainly a great choice because of its history, its legacy, and also the cultural heritage.
Sure. This year's theme is Shukraneeti, an ancient doctrine on how to govern a state by upholding morals and laws and implementing tenets of political science and statecraft. The sessions will look at how India navigates through the geopolitical crisis and uncertainties. So we'd like to know a little bit more about the theme. What is Shukraneeti? What does it entail? And its practical utility in the contemporary context.
Shukraneeti is one of the most ancient and primary texts which basically forms the core of Indian strategic thinking. And I believe that most of our foreign policy making so far has been majorly and largely impacted and influenced by the Western theoretical frameworks in international relations and foreign policy. However, the Western ideas and Western theories like liberalism, constructivism, realism, structuralism, and feminism, they are the product of typical Western historical experiences like Renaissance, colonialism, world wars, imperialism, and the recent times, the movements like feminism in the Western world. However, the Oriental experience is very different from what happened in the West. In Oriental world, the nations did not conquer states for colonial exploitation. The nations did not conquer states or started world wars for economic reasons. So I think we need to understand our own text, and Shukraneeti is one of those brilliant texts. It works on the four principles of Sam, Dam, Dand, and Ved to address and to solve most of the complicated and highly sophisticated problems of geopolitics and warfare. Likewise, there are many other texts like Kamandak's Niti Sar, Bharatari's Niti Shatak, Kautilya's Arthashastra, and Tirukural's Kural.
I was just about to ask you, would you please elaborate on the literal translation of Sam, Dand and Ved? Was the four pillars, please?
Yeah. So Sam, Dam, Dand, Ved are the four pillars of the strategy to deal with your enemy. Sam means to address and to deal with your enemy through praise and through dialogue and discussion. Dam is by luring the enemy, by financial and monetary incentives, and then Bhed is by splitting, by division, and then Dand is the punishment. So these are the four ways to deal with the enemy, and they have to be in the right succession. Like first comes Sam, after that Dam, and then the Dand, and then Bhed, and then Dand. This order has to be followed. This is the reason behind this is that first of all, they said that it's mentioned that conquering any foreign country is not something which is very strongly advised. But then, if still a ruler has to conquer a foreign land, then the wars or the violence has to be avoided at any cost. That's why the first two measures like Sam and Dam, they are given the very primary importance that one should begin with that. But these four measures, these four pillars may show that Shukraneeti is just a very hawkish doctrine. It's not like that. There are other doctrines in the Indian thought like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, treating the entire world as one family. That's also the core of Indian thinking on IR and foreign policy. When you say world is one family, then that kind of global order doesn't have a space for hegemons who are economically exploiting the smaller states, who are basically interested in making colonies. So that world order is based on the philosophy of a powerful nation being the friend of smaller states. The nations are powerful, even that order, economically, politically, and militarily powerful. But then they exert and they use their power to influence the smaller nations for the right reasons, not for economic exploitation or for greed of conquering territories.
Sure. Coming back to the contemporary context, there is also a strong focus on India's extended neighborhood in the third edition of MPAGD, which includes West Asia, South Caucasus, and Central Asia. What are some key themes up for discussion with respect to these regions, and what other sessions could we look forward to?
Well, India's extended neighborhood, which includes which includes West Asia and Central Asia and South Caucasus, is very important for us. And India's focus in diplomacy has been very different. Like, we have never joined the alliances, but we have mostly relied on the bilateral diplomacy. That's a very unique thing. And I guess, the conflicts happening in West Asia make it a region full of turmoil right now. And those developments impact India a lot. As we can see, India is a great friend of Israel. India is a great friend of many Arab states. The conflict which is unfolding in that region, and also raising alarm bells about its future escalation with the involvement of other actors like Iran and non-state actors like Hezbollah, etc. So I definitely these things have a great bearing upon India also. Likewise, in Central Asia also, I think we have stakes because after the comeback of Taliban in Afghanistan, there is a strong chance of religious extremist actors, becoming strong in that region. So we are concerned. In South Caucasus, India is reaching out to Armenia, and the bilateral relations are strengthening. There is a very important geopolitical angle to this bilateral tie relationship with Armenia, because lately Azerbaijan has made strong bonding with Turkey and Pakistan in its war against Armenia. So I think, and Turkey and Pakistan, Azerbaijan, they have been very active against India also on various issues, particularly the Islamic issues. So I think India needs to expand its geopolitical footprint in South Caucasus also. So we'll have various sessions focusing on the geopolitical aspects and strategic connectivity issues and economic issues in India's extended neighborhood.
We're witnessing a sudden momentum in the Indian think tank space, probably after the G20 last year, but there is also this interest and robust knowledge exchange with diplomats and experts from other countries who are keen to participate in these conferences. So what does this mean for Indian policy makers?
Well, I think now for foreign policy is no more foreign. It is the awareness and interest in the foreign policy and international security issues is spreading far and wide. It's reaching out to even the villages and smaller cities in India. And the youth is taking a very special interest in this field. The field has become very glamorous. And also, I'd like to thank PM Narendra Modi for this, because I guess, when he became India's Prime Minister in 2014, after that, we see a very sudden rise in the interest on international relations and foreign policy issues. And India has made major strides in these different areas, whether through its surgical strikes or Balakot air strikes, or its diplomacy with West Asia or with Russia. Definitely, we have come far away, and it seems that this think tank space is increasing in India, and that's actually good for us, because when you have more opinions and more people taking interest in the foreign policy choices and the foreign policy discourse, then certainly we get a much better output, and we also get a much better class of diplomats.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about the chief guests and ambassadors attending this year. Who are we expecting, therefore?
So we have a very good mixture of international and Indian delegates. Among the international delegates, we have Mr. Jawad Anani, the former Deputy Prime Minister of Jordan and the Foreign Minister of Jordan. He's joining. Then from Greece, Mr. Pantelis Alexandros, Director General Policy Planning, is coming. From Armenia, Noad Chalikyan is coming from APRI, which is one of their most prominent think tank. Dr. Jonathan Fulton, an expert on China's presence in West Asia, is coming from UAE. And we have several Indian delegates also, like Ambassador Trigunayat, Ambassador Sajjan Har, Ambassador Dinkar Srivastav, Ambassador Tirumurti. MJ Akbar, the former Indian Foreign Minister, is joining as a keynote speaker. And Lakshmi Puri ma'am, Hardeep Singh Puri sir, is also joining as keynote speaker. So it's a good mixture, and definitely it's not just the diplomats who are joining, but there are academics, there are people from the military side, like Lieutenant General Raj Shukla is joining.
Great. And who should be attending the conference this year?
So, given the fact that the conference is a very diverse mixture of speakers from various backgrounds, I feel that this is going to be very useful for people from diverse backgrounds. It'll be useful for the students and research scholars and the academic experts of international relations and foreign policy. It'll be useful for people from security, intelligence, and diplomatic background. And thirdly, it'll be useful for people from corporate and industry background. Because geopolitics is important for business now. Because, for example, if someone wants to invest in the strategic connectivity projects in West Asia, then they also need to know how the Houthi rebels are harming some of these, choke points in the Red Sea, and how these strategic connectivity projects are threatened by the terrorist actors. Besides, the business and the industry people will also get to connect with some of these prominent people from West Asia, Greece, and they will help them explore business potential in those countries, including our ambassadors who have served in some of these countries. So this is a conference which will be very useful for people from diverse backgrounds.
For the registration details, Abhinav, could you please let us know how to register for the conference, and is it possible to attend the offline part in the city of Udaipur?
So for registration, the complete information is given on our website, and we have two kinds of registration: online and offline registration. For the online part, you have to, there's a certain fee which we have kept, and for those who wish to attend the conference in Udaipur, they can go for the offline registration. And if they go to our website, they can find the entire information. And we are also regularly tweeting it. We are putting it on our social media channels, so there also they can find the registration links.
So you can get in touch with Usanas Foundation on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. You can also reach out to Abhinav on his social media platforms. Thanks once again for the information, Abhinav. Good luck with MPAGD, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Aparajita. Thank you.